Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie Searles and I am presenting my Week 7 discussion post on policy alternatives. The problem I am focusing on is dealing with a high level of pollution in California. Recent statistics by America's Health Rankings annual report show California is the state with the most polluted air in the United States. Data from air monitoring indicates that over 90% of residents living in California breathe unhealthy levels of one or more air pollutants during some part of the year. The challenge that presents is how to reduce the level of emissions while maintaining the same level of economic activities that benefit millions of residents living in the state. In this presentation, I will look at some of the policy alternatives. Some of the stakeholders concerned with this initiative include Environment California, Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, Green Action for Health and Environmental Justice, the Nature Conservancy in California, the Sierra Club, Sustainable Conservation, Los Angeles Conservation Corps, Environmental Protection Information Center, and Asian Pacific Environmental Network. We also have interested unions like the American Public Transportation Association, which I am both personally and professionally highly involved with, as well as other involved government agencies such as the Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as EPA, and the California Air Resources Board, which just recently opened up another facility here in Riverside. The first policy, which is currently in use, is the Clean Air Act, which is a comprehensive federal law that regulates air emissions from stationary and mobile sources. Among other things, this law authorizes EPA to establish national ambient air quality standards to protect public health and public welfare and to regulate emissions of hazardous air pollutants. According to statistics by the EPA, the Clean Air Act is slated to reduce mortality associated with poor air quality by 230,000, reduce poor asthma outcomes by over 2.4 million cases, reduce over 5.4 million cases of school absenteeism, and 17 million cases of work absenteeism. The central benefits estimate exceeds costs by a factor of more than 30 to 1. This net improvement in economic welfare is projected to occur because cleaner air leads to better health and productivity. The budget for such, according to the EPA, the annual industry compliance cost came to $26 billion in 1990 dollars, with the benefits noted to have accrued to over $2 trillion by 2020 and will increase as time passes. Policy number 2 is the zero-emission vehicle requirement. The ZEV regulation is designed to achieve the state's long-term emission reduction goals by requiring auto manufacturers to offer for sale specific numbers of the very cleanest cars in terms of pollution available. The anticipated outcomes of the regulation is to cut tailpipe emissions by over 80%, which will in turn see a significant drop in GHGs, given that vehicles are among the largest contributors of GHGs. The regulation has been given a specific timeline, with the current timeline mandating large transit companies to have 50% of their total fleet of new bus purchases in each calendar year to be zero-emission vehicles by 2026 and 25% for small transit companies. The main goal is to have the number of zero-emission vehicles in California reach 1.5 million by 2025, and by 2029, all bus purchases made will be zero-emission buses. This has a direct impact to my personal and professional life, considering I am in the public transportation business. And I can tell you in terms of planning that there are significant resources being invested in this exact policy. From a budget perspective, the cost of compliance to the ZEV policy is estimated to be at $2,000 per vehicle, with the long-term benefits far outweighing the cost. That cost is for vehicles, not buses. The cost for zero-emission buses is much, much greater. I think we're looking at about $1 million per vehicle. The third policy is introduction of an emissions trading policy, which aims to reduce pollution by putting a limit on emissions, giving polluters a certain number of allowances consistent with those limits, and then permitting the polluters to buy and sell the allowances. The expected outcomes of this policy is to not only improve air quality, but also to improve resource efficiency, ensuring energy security and creating jobs. This policy requires only the market systems to be put in place to function continuously. Given that the system is based on a buy-sell market framework, the cost of implementation is zero. The policy evaluation criteria will be based on effectiveness, sustainability, and impact. The selected policy needs to show that it is effective in addressing the issue of pollution. The policy should also be sustainable in the long term, otherwise it may not be feasible in creating the anticipated impact. In conclusion, it is imperative that a balance between reducing air pollution and economic activities be reached to have a sustainable solution to an issue of significant implication to the residents of California. It is recommended that a policy be adopted based on its effectiveness and sustainability while considering the needs of all stakeholders. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.